The playoffs are only 3 weeks away, and it would surprise nobody if El Paso and Fresno were to meet again. But tonight, Wednesday Night Soccer presents the Locomotive in their own rail yard, Southwest University Park in El Paso, ready to take on Fresno Football Club, who have already qualified for the playoffs and are fighting for the #2 seed. With Devin Kerr, Mike Watts. Devin, no reason anyone in El Paso is going to miss this game because of this note from your very doctor.
Every now and then, you got to find a way to get out of work. You know, maybe let the wife know I'm not going to be around for dinner. I can't help out with the household chores. And you know what? Maybe you just want to sleep out the back door. Go have a little fun with your kids. Whatever it is, El Paso Locomotive gets it. They helped me out in a big way and took to social media. I'm grateful.
When's the last time you helped out with chores?
I'm like a single mother. Cook, clean, you name it. Let's go. Let's get it done.
Here's the Western Conference standings in the championship right now. Fresno in great position. If you're El Paso, you can go anywhere from 4 all the way out of...
They're the only team in the Western Conference that has 5 games remaining. Think about that, 15 points at their disposal. They have a rough gamut to run at the end of it. But for Fresno, yes, they are in prime position, but you do not want to give Reno a chance to jump into that #2 spot.
Well, they were real fortunate that while they dropped points on the weekend against San Antonio, Reno did too.
You got to think about Fresno as well. As great as they have positioned themselves in that #2 spot, everybody's still right there. I mean, this is anybody's for the taking, so they got to get back on track. And as great as they've been all season long, lost 2-1 to San Antonio FC, they have not lost back-to-back games, dropped 6. And remember, their last road win back on August 10th at OKC.
And don't forget, they recently knocked off Phoenix after a 20-game win streak. For the Locomotive right now, giant points against Sacramento.
Was really waiting for them to step up and show me something. This was it. It is not easy to go into Papa Murphy's Park and get any sort of point, yet alone 3, and at the depth of it. They had to fight their way back in. More importantly, this team is creating a lot of opportunities in the final third. They feel they are just steps away to converting them all and vaunting themselves up the standings.
And Mark Lowry sharing a nice handshake with Simon Elliott post-game. 34-year-old Mark Lowry leading this expansion team to the verge of the playoffs. El Paso at home tonight, looking for their signature win against Fresno. We've got lineups at kickoff. Wednesday Night Soccer coming up next. Southwest University Park, and an on-field view as El Paso and Fresno walk through the smoke and onto the field, pyrotechnics included. #2 and #9 in the championship's Western Conference for Wednesday Night Soccer with Devin Kerr, Mike Watts, and Locomotive fans ready to see this lineup trot out for Mark Lowry. He is making some changes. Bossetti, Salgado not in the 11.
Josue Gomez is in, though. He'll be on the left-hand side. Sebastian Contreras, and then Velasquez in the middle. And that's the biggest key to think about for this team going forward. We mentioned they're creating more opportunities. This is an interesting animal. 26, 7, and 10. They all rotate. They bounce side to side. All of them can play each other's positions and more. Of course, they'd love to get James Kippy and Brian Rebellon involved in the attack going forward in the outside back, quite rapidly turning in this into 5 or 6 going forward, sometimes 7 and 8. Fresno FC, how do they rebound? As we mentioned, back-to-back losses do not exist in this organization. It hasn't happened all season long, so don't be surprised if they come out firing. Elijah Martin will step in front of Alex Cooper on the left-hand side. 2 Bass brothers up top, Jaime Chavez, Kudus Lawal, they're back together, and Jamal Johnson comes back into the starting 11. He'll be in front of Zach Ellis-Hayden. That could be a great combo on the right wing.
Kudus Lawal in the 4 of your screen, number 20. He does return after a suspension last time out. Yellow card accumulation. For El Paso, Jerome Kiesewetter, former U.S. men's national team player, leading the way. Can he get hot at the right time? Number 2, number 9. It's a giant match in the USL Championships Western Conference. Elvis Osmanovic checks his watch. We're underway. Will the 8th notch see a big win for their side that would move them into much firmer playoff ground, or will Fresno Football Club get that much closer to the number 2 seed in the West? El Paso in blue, right to left on your screen. Fresno in white. And lost by Kiesewetter. And a defeat of Zach Ellis-Hayden. Short of Jamal Johnson, who returns to the starting lineup. He was not featured in the game against San Antonio FC, which maybe even a couple months ago was unthinkable. Adam Smith trying to get some healthier legs at minimum. Refreshed, perhaps. Ross. And a foul. Velasquez stumbles through. Velasquez, what a story he is coming into this El Paso side from South Korea mid-season.
Massive signing coming back over, and said I really enjoyed his time afar. Just, an opportunity presented itself that he had to jump at. An opportunity with a expansion franchise, and under the tutelage of a style of soccer that he's been accustomed to. Of course, did great things for Real Monarchs under the tutelage of Mark Briggs. Had a chance to play a similar style of sorts under Mark Lowry. There are many a difference, but giving him the opportunity to become the playmaker for this team and really guide them in the appropriate direction, he jumped at that.
Fox. That was allowed by Yuma. Martin tried to step in. Lawal now. Devin, both sides telling us in the lead up to this game they were planning to pressure both the center backs and the goalkeepers a little bit.
Especially with the amount that these teams like to throw their players forward. You take a look at Fresno first and foremost. CJ Cochran playing out of the back and helping Del Campo and Geffrard. Alex Cooper and Zach Ellis-Hayden are constantly involved in the attack. The overlapping runs. Again, we talked about how these teams like to throw so many numbers forward. And you see a mirror image from El Paso Locomotive. So what that does is when you start to press a little bit, you push 2, 3, 4 guys going forward. Not only are you creating mismatches in terms of numbers, but it's guys that are generally unaccustomed to playing out of the back in that nature. Now, El Paso Locomotive do it with the best of them in all the USL Championship. Logan Ketterer being the one. They really felt like they needed to go out and get a goalkeeper, start from the back, and move forward for Mark Lowry.
Ali Hachik. Johnson won't collect. It's Velasquez. Ali Hachik, 26-year-old native of Bosnia and Herzegovina. There's Mark Lowry, 34 years old, 34 years young.
Didn't realize he and I
dressed the
same this year. I knew we dressed the same. I mean, obviously we got great style, but didn't realize that we were going to mimic each other, exactly what we were pulling out of the wardrobe tonight.
I was told my style is a solid Midwestern charm.
I respect that.
Okay.
It suits you well.
Yeah, sure does. throw for El Paso. There's Adam Smith. Should be about 10 more days before he gets that sling off. He hasn't been able to train the goalkeepers, of course. But he has started to move his shoulder around a little bit. Had that on for the better part of a month. Johnson. Speared down by Lawal. So Logan Ketterer. Martin. And Martin brought down by Yuma. And a quick restart for Fresno. Ball whipped across over the wall. Tolko got up to meet it. CJ Cochran now went on loan from Nashville last year to pick up a few games' time. Team was hoping they could keep him through the end of last year. Didn't work out that way. When he was available this offseason, Fresno leapt on the young goalkeeper, who spent a handful of years backing up Cody Lorendi in Oklahoma City. Yuma.
I can still remember the frustration coming out of Adam Smith, how that was a real worry for him, the goalkeeping position, how that was going to play out. When CJ Cochran did come over on loan from Nashville, how he wanted to get his hands back at him immediately. They were able to secure him, and that goes back to the same situation you see with Logan Ketterer. Both managers going after a goalkeeper felt like not only lead this team in the right direction, but you know, when their backs were up against the wall, how would you respond? And both of these gentlemen always doing it appropriately. CJ Cochran not really asked to play with his feet as much as Logan Ketterer, but still impressive.
So skid out toward Cooper and goes all the way back. What a goal Cooper scored last time out against San Antonio. Wasn't enough for Fresno to pick up points on the night. A gorgeous free kick. It's Kiffey.
That was just a match that they struggled a little bit, especially in the first half. Felt like things got better as it went on.
Ball slipped ahead. Gomez was offside. I mean, Adam Smith came away from that San Antonio game thinking we should have gotten at least a point. I'm sure Darren Powell felt the opposite.
I'd probably disagree with Adam respectfully. And he's someone who I have the highest respect for. But when you go back and just watch the entire match, for me, there was a lot of areas where they were, you know, kind of pulled out of their comfort zone. And more was created in the offensive third for San Antonio than for Fresno. Now, I'm not negating the fact that they could have put more in the back of the net, but that's like saying if I create 10 and you create 2, you finish 1. Oh, we could have finished 1 more. Yeah, well, I could have finished 6 more. That's kind of, statistically, when you look at it, that's how that played out. Now, they weren't blown off the pitch by any means whatsoever. San Antonio starting to figure things out.
Look at the speed again here showing. Del Campo backs in. Runners are well behind. Driving through was Contreras. Tapped by Lawal. He's appealing for a foul he didn't get. Kiffey. El Paso notably without Richie Ryan tonight. He's been out the last 2 weeks. For Fresno, Jackson Gonsalves picked up a shoulder injury and flew home. Without Mickey Daly as well with a hamstring injury. Bouncing ball forward, gets snagged by Cochran. Also without Arun Basulovic and Seth Moses, although those have been longer-term injuries.
How frustrating for Mark Lowry, though, where you finally feel like you've gotten the band back together. A time in the season he was telling us where it's, you know, struggling to put 10, 11, 12 on the field at any point in time, especially going on the long road trips. And once everybody makes their way back through the door, once again, you find yourself on the injury report, and the Richie Ryan one's a big one, as well as Mickey Daly. A couple weeks away. Are they going to be able to get them back at all? Because have to realize they're fighting for their lives right now, trying to make their way into the playoffs. Stick around for halftime. We'll give you an idea of exactly how we think that's going to play out.
Yeah.
And then you pay attention and realize how wrong I was.
I mentioned to Mark Lowry in the lead up to this game that you had gone through and projected out every game the rest of the way, and he said, hey, can you tell me how we're going to finish? Then went on to say the West has been just so wild to predict this year. I mean, there are certain games where you think, okay, that's an obvious 3 points, but hasn't turned out that way. Ball slipped through, contact, and it's a foul against Kiesewetter.
It's going to be a difficult foot race for him to win tonight against Zach Ellis-Hayden. Kiesewetter has some nice high-end speed, but for him it's all about the angles, relying on that back shoulder movement, and he tucked himself in, thought he was able to get to the ball, but that quick first step by Zach Ellis-Hayden, and then immediate reaction to just shift gears, speed up a little bit, got right back out in front of the big German.
Cochran drives away, 10 minutes in. Ross. Rebellon. Goals in 2 games running. Kiesewetter nods it aside. And here comes Sebastian Velasquez. Slipped further now. Gomez crossing. Ball clipped away from the top of the 6. Kept alive by Velasquez. Kiffey. El Paso in pursuit of the opening tally. And the offside flag raised on the return ball to Velasquez.
He's got to be smarter in this situation where you've worked so many numbers forward and really gathered your thoughts. And that's where El Paso Locomotive is at their best. They can knock it around side to side with the best of them, but their ability to build from the back forward and then move into the final third. But it's that last little clicking that they've been missing. Recently, it's been much better, creating a lot more opportunities, finishing them off, more importantly. But it's the little things down the stretch that are going to allow them to not only push themselves into a playoff spot, maybe even move up the rankings so they can situate themselves appropriately come playoff time.
Slide in by Ellis-Hayden, kept by El Paso. This is the first year with the play-in round in the new playoff structure. Top 10 make the field. Top 6 get a bye through the play-in. Ball well lofted. Gomez comes off of Geffrard. And he'll slide it out. Big moment for James Geffrard, the native of Montreal, Haitian international. Called upon to start in a 4-back, which has been quite rare.
There's the switch already. Contreras coming over to the left. This way Gomez drifting all the way to the right-hand side. Velasquez,
look at this, Velasquez! And Velasquez can't believe it. He's asking Elvis Osmanovic to watch the screen. Pressure arriving, kicked out by Fox. Here's Elijah Martin, played for the Fresno U23s, formerly the Fuego in USL League 2. Came in really as a backup, and this year has solidified a place in the lineup with varying injuries to the left and right flank players. He's in midfield tonight.
He's someone who has really grown through the year, but I was actually really impressed with his performance when they took down Phoenix Rising, that 20-match win streak. You and I thought that that might be the trump card. Could Solomon Asante run through him? Most assuredly. That was going to be an easy route for him, and that wasn't the case at all. Elijah Martin did such a good job of shutting him down, but it was a two-way play. He was still able to get involved in the attack, and that's the key moment.
Chavez got the shot away off the backside of Ntoko. Ellis-Hayden did a great job poking that away in the first place, and the counter is on for the Locomotive. Kiesewetter. Yuma! Well, if he scores that from 40 yards, it's the topic of conversation league-wide. Goes whistling wide of the post.
You'll see Yuma on set pieces help out in terms of distribution. And a guy that is no shortage of pedigree, the Spaniard, pulling the trigger from about 35 yards out. Just seeing if C.J. Cochran had gotten up from his nap, opening 15 minutes.
Now, what you're hearing there is not the offensive chant that you might think it is. El Paso, nickname-wise, El Chuco. So that's what they publicly proclaim every time the ball's kicked away, for those who might be wondering. I can genuinely appreciate the effort made by the eighth notch to handle that appropriately. I think that's a brilliant strategy to stamp that out. Attack on here for El Paso. Was a little bit behind. Kuramoto stepped in. Lawal on the hold-up play, seeking out Cooper. Taken away by Geffrard.
You notice 15 minutes in with El Paso Locomotive, the way that they're going about it so far is they're making themselves wide initially, then looking for a quick ball to the inside to try and play in behind Fresno.
Jamal Johnson wins a corner.
As a Fox in a white jersey, you just have to be very careful. Again, a lot of changing pieces for the Locomotive. Take a look at the possession. That's something that will probably remain true to itself for the course of this match. It'll rise a little bit for Fresno, but El Paso Locomotive like to be on the ball a lot. They're #1 in the USL Championship in that category for a reason. Always very patient on the ball moving forward, but again, you've started to see some quick fire options going forward. That's definitely where they've been lacking.
Lifted up by Ali Hadjic and kept alive by Del Campo somewhat remarkably. Martin the second time around, way off the mark. Notably, no Juan Pablo Caffa in the starting 11. He would take traditionally all the set pieces.
It's a head turner a little bit, especially this time of year, thinking, okay, how are we going to handle the workload? And you felt like with a couple matches to go, okay, we've got 4. How do we manage this entire thing? And especially when you're taking on Tacoma Defiance over the weekend, you thought he would have probably played him tonight and then rested him versus the youngsters from Seattle, but that's not the case. Instead, he's electing to allow the Argentinian to sit. Did put in a pretty heavy shift versus San Antonio FC, something to think about.
Ball held up and whipped across by Lawal. Johnson got the ball away off of Yuma, former Rayo youth in Spain. And Velasquez looking dangerous as ever. When he gets the ball at his feet, you genuinely have no idea what he's going to do.
One of the better tacticians in all the USL Championship, and that's a layer of the attack that El Paso Locomotive needs to add. When he takes this little touch to his side, I don't want to see Contreras standing right next to him, because you already have a point man in Kiesewetter standing about 10 yards further higher up the pitch. He had held up play, brought it back inside. Rebillon's got to be on his horse on the right side. You have a conversation with Gomez on the left. Provide multiple options going forward so it's not this tiki-taka every single time you step on it.
Ball flings away. Geffrard, and there's Martin. And turned back to Gomez. And Gomez sure can run. Pulls the brake on Geffrard. Velasquez, and it's Ross. That'll skip by, and out for a corner. Kiesewetter, hands on his head, was hoping that would skip to him.
Notice the tempo, higher. Ball down on the right side, quick little cut in. It's faster decision making, but they're doing it with pace. They don't allow Fresno to set themselves on the defensive side. Creates a lot of congestion, and even if it's a half chance at the top that goes out for deflection, they'll take it. This is where they need to be better in the final third.
Gomez, who was acquired from FC Juarez, the club's sister club, expansion side, partnering with them from the start. Puts it in play, and Ross, all knocked back, kept, and Fox has that ricochet back. Johnson slid down by Ross.
This is a rough tackle coming in from behind by Nick Ross. Let's see the Scotsman doing battle with someone just across the border. I get it, a couple thousand miles away, but still friends, right?
No.
England, Scotland? No, that's gone.
No.
Yeah.
Maybe. Ross played for Caledonian Thistle and then for Dundee. 200 games in the Scottish top flight. Kept in by Lawal. Chavez thought he was onside. He wasn't. A big part of El Paso's game plan was to neutralize Fresno's ability to win second balls with trailing runs through midfield to pick it up in that space between two lines. Handball here. And I think so far they've done a pretty decent job of that, forcing the target players wide.
100%. You also have to realize that they're not necessarily going the direct route where some of those long balls up over the top and making those big changes. And we've seen that before. So you're not giving Fresno the opportunity to step into those spots. That is where they are really at their best, a term that I really appreciated how Mark Lowry phrased it, a blue-collar team. He meant that in a really positive sense. They're worker bees, and they will go to the ends of the earth for their manager. That's what you saw against Phoenix. That's what you've seen all season long. But can you now replicate it? We haven't seen that as consistent recently. Again, this team pretty much did whatever they wanted to in any fashion they wanted to all season long, even though they were working hard. We saw them in a three-back. We saw them rotate in four. They can stack the forwards up top. They can throw Jamal Johnson in the middle. I mean, there are so many different looks to this squad. But recently they've struggled a little bit. And this is kind of one of those times where, as a playoff contender, you're sitting there, the 2-3 mark. Can you finish it off there? You challenge yourself, because Phoenix is way out in front.
Right.
And you say, okay, we've got a chaser and the likes of Reno. Probably an outside shot with any of the others. But Reno's right there. Let's find a way to get back to proper form and then have a go at this thing come playoff time.
4 games to go. Fresno trying to find just the right mix here down the stretch. They're going to have the same problem Phoenix does if they win tonight. They'd be 6 points up on the same number of games played as Reno. You would imagine the second seed is close to wrapped up at that point. Then you're deciding how you want to use players down the stretch to get the right level at the right time while not exhausting anybody.
Can also promise you this, that though it's not necessarily on the front of the mind of Adam Smith, if they win tonight and Orange County and Sac lose this weekend, they do secure a home playoff spot. So that does give you a little comfort. Now, you want to make sure you're at home as often as possible, because the last place you want to go is Phoenix. Someone's going to end up there. We just don't know when. I mean,
yeah.
it's fair enough. I'm good at math.
One thing I do know, that they will host on the opening Saturday of the playoffs, a game. Where it goes after that, nobody knows. I look at the Western Conference, and the more I'm watching, the more I'm thinking Phoenix clearly head and shoulders above. They've already clinched USL Championship's regular season points title. At this point, they're chasing old ghosts for the best numbers in league history. But West is pretty wild, and Phoenix is going to have a fair number of hurdles to get by.
How nice of it, though, that with 3 weeks basically left in the 2019 regular season for the USL Championship, you legitimately have 15 teams that can still make the playoffs in the West.
Kiffey slipped it ahead, and the slide by Del Campo. Had it gotten out, a throw here for El Paso, and El Paso low-key pretty decent on the road. If you're Phoenix, I'm not sure El Paso's the first team you'd put on your wish list.
We've seen a couple teams this year over that 20-game unbeaten streak have a little go at it. I said to you, San Antonio FC had a nice little run in there. The T2 match earlier this season, you know, that ended up 4-2, but
Tacoma, they were down at Tacoma.
Defiance, that's right.
And it was Adam Smith's side that finally dethroned Phoenix after 20 straight wins. That 2 weeks ago. They also clinched a playoff spot that night, but even Adam Smith admitted, we knew we were going to make the playoffs one way or the other. Whether they backed in or not. Ultimately, though, a little bit of history when you beat a team like Phoenix on it's probably statistically extraordinary run as we've ever seen American soccer. Contreras watches that deflect out for a goal kick.
The biggest message that will come out of all of this that we're talking about right now are two things. Number one, the level has really risen. And all the USL Championship, specifically the West.
It's rising, you would say?
It's rising, there you go.
Yeah.
And it's getting to the point where almost anyone can beat anyone on any given day. You have a shot, truly, anytime you step on the pitch. And that wasn't always the case in the past, but getting better each and every year.
Johnson slices the ball through. He wanted the return, and if he did get it there, he has scored from that distance time and time again. Ton of contact, and kudos to the wall. Can't understand why Ross wasn't at least whistled for a foul.
Interesting little look right now with Vasquez standing on the ball. Kiesewetter has gone wide out to the right, and they've allowed Gomez to track into the middle. We said that Gomez and Contreras, as well as Seba, would definitely change places, but now trying to get Jerome involved in the run of play a bit more. Ball out in front of him and see if he can make a little bit of an impact on the right-hand side. Haven't really been able to find him. Same goes for Chavez on the wall for Fresno. Two focal points that they always like to get downhill if possible. Great aerial capability. Approaching the 26-minute mark, just haven't been able to find that yet.
A throw for El Paso. There's Kiffy, signed late in 2014 with Sacramento, settled the left back job, and helped Preki lead the Republic, the USL Cup final as it was called then. We've done a little maintenance on the nameplate on the Cup this year. The USL Championship final coming up in November. Playoffs begin in about 3 weeks with the playing games. About 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Kiffy. Seven, 10, 8, 9 in the final standings on October 20th. We'll meet 3 days later on Wednesday night in each conference for the playing game.
Imagine that type of week. Playing for your life on a Saturday, go playoff game midweek, and then turn around and have to travel on the weekend.
El Paso, in speaking with their coaching staff, go, hey, if we have to do the playing game and we win it, you're talking 8 games in about 27 days. There is great possibility in games in hand. There's also a great responsibility at the end of the year as well. Yuma, that's a good pass up the right-hand side. And the cross toward Gomez, slipped away by Geffrard. Geffrard making just his 4th start for Fresno with Mickey Daly out. Martin, not once but twice. And now chipped forward over Ross and right to Cochran.
It's a great step by Jaime Chavez just to apply a bit of pressure, and that's what they're going to need out of both the strikers up top. The amount of possession that El Paso carries itself. You hit this spot when you condense everybody in and you move numbers up where just over the halfway line, you're going to have time to do whatever you want, unless one of those guys starts to get involved in the defensive shape, and that's where one drops back into the midfield. And not only are you helping out defensively, but now you've provided an extension for the attack going forward. So when you win the ball, quick little turnover, you can play off of someone right around the center circle and then allow your outside players to get involved.
Kiesewetter, Velasquez, Ross and Gomez await. It's Yuma with space. Thought he had the run coming from Kiffy. And Kuramoto goes to work. Select is the official ball supplier of the USL Championship and many of the finest leagues in the world since 1947. Select has been the leader in soccer ball quality and innovation. For the latest Select products and special offers, please visit selectsportamerica.com. Ellis Hayden goes down. Before Select existed, they were playing with leather balls, I think.
The panels. The old roundabout way.
Well, no Kaffa in this game, so it's going to be Ali Hadjic in a pretty decent place to swing in service.
Good thing, because he hasn't had his feet on the ball a lot going forward so much at all. And that was a quick little look just a second ago. Right now, Ali Hadjic and Kurimoto dropping really deep. And Jamal Johnson rotating in. You and I talked about that coming in, how he likes to rotate in. He's probably better just underneath the forwards the way things are playing out now. That does allow Zach Ellis Hayden on the right. Of course, Alex Cooper on the left. And the angle that you're playing with right now, haven't had a lot of possession, 30-minute mark. Not only does this relieve some pressure, but you do if you want. And you'd have to be very tricky with it. You can go after the goalkeeper here. You don't have a very big wall with Seba and Sebastian Contreras standing in it. But on the right footer right now, big bodies on the back post. This has to be quick little distribution just inside that penalty mark, about 6 yards from goal.
This is the first time a goalkeeper gets tested tonight. Not just yet. It's Cooper. Martin, the lone player, back. Yuma with that defensive header a moment ago. El Paso in 9th. That is playoff position. It would be a road game in the play-in round on the first Wednesday night of the playoffs. Fresno knows they're in, and with results on the weekend, could solidify a home game in the first round of the playoffs at Chuck Chansey Park. They're in second right now. That puts them on the opposite side of the bracket from Phoenix. Could set up a rematch there in a conference final, but that's a long, long way away. Ross. Fox and Toko played one game in a 2-month span, June 16th to August 11th. Missed 6 games. The team picked up 2 points in that entire span. Kiesewetter. And dropped over the top, collected by Gomez. Flag stays down. Bypasses Contreras. And launched over the top. Geffrard is there. Ross slipped it forward. Velasquez! Velasquez knocked it wide. The crowd's going crazy. They thought that was inside the net.
And the angle everybody thought Sebastian Velasquez has picked out this near post. CJ Cochran knew he had it covered the whole time. He's read this story before. Left foot, quick little look up, and it's trailing away from him. It's not a bad build-up by the Locomotive. I'd still like to see them pick up the tempo. And you notice that when the ball's making its way to the outside, they're not getting the best service into the box right now. So even when you do build up 60, 70 yards, and you've got Fresno on their heels, it's got to be better coming in. You've got some big guys. Kiesewetter, put the ball up, let him go win something, and really challenge this back line. That hasn't taken place yet.
Kiesewetter had that incredible start, 10 goals in 13 games, picks up an injury, only 1 goal since in 7 games. But you know something, Devin, the talking point 5 months ago was, yeah, he's scoring a lot, but our feeling is the service has been that good. Pressure arriving, and this will skim out to Gomez. Here's Kiesewetter in the middle of your screen, leading a flock of Locos. Not under Velasquez. Play on as Gomez went down, and Kiesewetter unable to connect.
It looked like a foul on the far side of the field.
Do you feel like that was as far as the referee was willing to play advantage?
Interestingly enough, he actually waved it off. And you know, just outside of the 18. And politely disagree. Now they are able to get a chance out of it. Lovely little ball played in. So that is something to think about, but just keep an eye on the middle of the field right now. Ali Hadjic and Kurimoto having to drop back so far. There's some depth. That's what they'd like to see. Invert your attackers, because basically what you're seeing out of El Paso Locomotive right now is they're stacking the top just a little bit. They're allowing Kiesewetter and Gomez to play alongside each other. Now there is depth, and you're seeing that coming over on the left-hand side.
Ellis Hayden goes to ground, and Kiffey and Kiesewetter caught up to him.
In the middle, Yuma dropping in deep and going flat. So it's turning into a sort of a 4-1-3-2 where Yuma's playing that holding midfielder. Then Nick Ross, Velasquez, and Contreras are rotating a little bit there. Obviously, that's going to be a ever-changing motion, but it's a far cry from sitting too deep than we saw earlier on this season. It's a pretty good depiction of it right now, and it allows for the trailing runs coming right at the top of the 18.
Velasquez, a magician on the ball, slides it all the way through, nobody home. That felt like it had to be. Gomez was the closest to it, and now Fresno the other way. Velasquez, since he came from South Korea, he and his wife had a child in El Paso. They've bought a home in El Paso. With the tragic news about the El Paso shooting a couple months ago, was leading the charge to help raise money for a soccer team that lost 2 coaches in that tragedy. And what's more, was among the first in line to donate blood. Literal blood, sweat, and tears from Sebastian Velasquez in El Paso. What's more, he sent a direct message to both you and I on Twitter and said, hey, can you help me promote this GoFundMe to try and help out our local soccer community in El Paso. He really did go about as far out of his way as he could.
That was a quick, absolutely say no more. You don't even have to, DM me on this one.
Yeah.
Happy to get involved and help out a cause such as this. And it was amazing to see the team, the community, the organization, everybody rally around that. Because as a player, and this isn't a disrespectful comment, it's simple to go about your business, go in, do your work, stay out of what's going on around you, but that wasn't the case. They were able to raise not only medical benefits to help out everything that was going on, but uniforms and everything that was going on for the kids. That's why the coaches were there initially, to help try and get this organization back on top at the youth level. And that was something that you heard out of Mark Lowry earlier this season. Jerome Kiesewetter mentioned it as well, and Seba, that they wanted to be part of something special and build something from the ground up. And though not necessarily the circumstances that you want to play off of, still a positive talking point coming out of a rough situation.
Mark Lowry said months ago, hey, we're on the border of Mexico. It's a soccer hotbed here, the borderland. He said, puts me under pressure, puts the team under pressure. These fans, they get the game. It's a market that is long overdue to add professional soccer to its portfolio. More often than not, this team has played a lot more like Bulldogs than Chihuahuas. And Yuma's down, grasping at his nostrils.
Let's see. Did we make any friends here? Yeah, that's...
The center back next to me is offended.
It's not an Academy Award, I can tell you that much. I do respect the boots, however. All blue.
Those are class, aren't they?
Tempo Legends. Well done. Well done.
While we have a moment, we should tell you about Game of the Week. Wednesday night soccer is coming to a close here real soon. We've got October 9th, playoff spot at stake for Birmingham Legion. We're on ESPN News. That'll kick off a final 2-week run for the playoffs. Hartford Athletic, the opposition, they're already eliminated. Catch it October the 9th over on ESPN News.
I don't mind the fact that he's frustrated with a little nudge on the backside. But make a mountain out of a molehill was not the time to do it right now, especially when all the cameras are on you. We could most assuredly see that there was no knock on the nose whatsoever. Jaime Chavez, a little chest action, I get it.
That Hartford-Birmingham game, a nice 8 p.m. start in Hartford. Dillon Stadium's looking nice and shiny, nice and new.
Hartford having the opportunity to play spoiler to a couple teams down the stretch. Of course, the Legion, Sands, Chandler Hoffman have found a way to not only get it done, they've kicked it into high gear. Went on that nice little run of their own, have cooled off a bit recently, but now a time to get back at it. St. Louis FC gave them a bit of pressure, and it's really that 9-10 spot that three teams are vying for. Charleston Battery, St. Louis, and Birmingham.
You mentioned Hoffman. Like Omar Salgado, who's not in the 11 for El Paso, one of those local legends who came back to help launch USL Championship expansion side this year. Birmingham on the verge of the playoffs. El Paso on the verge of the playoffs. Austin Bold looks like they're in fine shape to make the postseason as an expansion team. There's some others who aren't quite so lucky. Hartford and Loudoun probably stand among the rest there. El Paso, one of 7 expansion teams in the league this year. Kiffey chests that out. Throw for Fresno. Expansion team a year ago, missed the playoffs. 40 minutes in tonight. The right results this weekend could see them officially hosting a playoff game at Chuck Chansey Park. Off of Kiesewetter, back to Geffrard.
This is a luxury that Fresno has out on that left-hand side. Alex Cooper and Elijah Martin, both more than capable of playing in that outside back position and then pushing forward, getting in on the wings. They're just switching positions right now. See if they can find a way to create some chances for their boys up top. We mentioned Cutis Lawal and Jaime Chavez really haven't had much of an effort to have a go on Logan Ketterer this evening. Credit to El Paso Locomotive and their ability to shut all of that down. It's a really impressive movements as Seba doing the same thing in the middle of the field. This time it'll be with Kurimoto going into the book on the yellow.
Kurimoto's 4th yellow card of the year.
Those quick little shift shapes, you know? Right foot, trailing leg. And that's just a late challenge, to be honest. Not even a great move by Velasquez in the middle of the field.
Kurimoto, twice the MVP of the J League with Honda. Actually worked a job with Honda and also played for the soccer team that's affiliated with the company. And so it was with that in mind they came to trial for Fresno, essentially giving up a well-paying job in Japan to come play as a professional for Fresno in the United States. Earlier this year had a fan come over from Japan. The team, along with Fuego the Fox, met her at the airport, brought her to the game, front row seats. USL Championship on both sides of the Pacific Ocean. Slide in has Martin grabbing for his ankles. Velasquez helps him up. If that wasn't Velasquez in a nutshell, I don't know what is.
Quality by the two, as he knows he got his hand caught in the cookie jar. Well done by Elijah Martin to just hold this ball up and knew that a challenge was coming. He's going to take a big brunt of it. I'm still looking for some more out of the midfield right now. There's another look. Kurimoto and Ali Hadjic, they're just so deep, and you can see this gap. If you take a look at number 8, Nick Ross, all the way to his left. Just a moment ago, there was about 20 yards where there's no white jerseys whatsoever. And how do you figure that out? Well, there's a couple ways you can play it. Jamal Johnson slides in, he helps out. The way that they're inverting on the left with Cooper and Martin, they're interchanging a little bit. Cooper much higher up on the pitch right now. You don't necessarily see him tuck inside a lot. So that's where Chavez, as you're seeing, has to drop back in. And you have to find a way to close this gap. El Paso Locomotive having a lot of success right now because they're given all the luxury. You give them so much space, they're going to take advantage.
Turned over to Velasquez. Just trying to get away from Kurimoto. Kurimoto did a great job stymieing that run by Velasquez. And this ball hammered from distance, an effort to slide that in. Andrew Fox's wayward effort doesn't challenge Cochran. Devin, we're 44 minutes in, and Cochran and Ketterer going, what about us?
You have to remember that though El Paso Locomotive have had most of the possession, can you and I truly sit back and say this team's dominating this game?
No team is dominating this game.
No, not whatsoever. This is, let's knock it around in the middle part, go back and forth. However, that's how Fresno wins. They can take you down. They lull you to sleep, and then boom, they strike like that on the other end of the field.
I love what you said earlier. Blue collar, right? You see it, I see it. Rick Johnson, Phoenix, told us about it 2 weeks ago. Mark Lowry mentioned it extensively on the call. He goes, blue collar wins football matches. Desire wins football matches. This is a Fresno team that plays, shall we call it, in English style under their English manager, Adam Smith.
Even an old school English style.
The new school English style is actually all foreign coaches, but
yes.
This turning shot is parried away. Chavez finally making Ketterer do some work there. Corner in the dying seconds of the first half.
This is exactly what we're talking about, where it's a little challenge on one area, then a quick ball in, and Chavez pulls the trigger. Ketterer cannot go to sleep. That is why he is back there, though. Mark Lowry knows that even if the game switches off a little bit, he can always count on him.
1 minute of added time here on Wednesday Night Soccer. Coming up at halftime, Devin's going to tell you who's going to make the playoffs in the Western Conference. Hint, it's a dumpster fire. And we've got highlights from this first half as well. Ali Hadjic. Skims off the head of Del Campo.
Should probably let all the coaches that aren't involved in this match right now let you know that go enjoy a beverage at halftime, maybe grab yourself some pizza. I promise you, it's on me.
Everyone else can just get their popcorn ready.
I'm not paying for that. They'll be there a while enjoying themselves long after the broadcast is over, laughing at me.
Kiffy. And the halftime whistle blows. Devin, uninspired first half?
Very much so. Similar to what we've seen from El Paso in the past, where nice build-ups, get 20, 25, 30 yards from goal. Can't pull the trigger soon enough. Can't make a decision fast enough as to which direction they'd like to go. Created a lot recently, hasn't been the case. For Fresno, though it wasn't their best, I'm not overly concerned because we've seen this before. This is an area where they can be played out of a game. They can sit back. They can kind of do whatever they want. All they need is a tiny window to turn it up, and they'll bite you.
Halftime in El Paso. When we come back, Devin tries to tell you what's going to happen in the next 3 weeks. He's got his crystal ball out. Wednesday Night Soccer continues after this on ESPN3. The road to the USL Championship playoffs continue tonight here on Wednesday Night Soccer on ESPN3, joined by Devin Kerr, Mike Watts. Let's take a look at where El Paso and Fresno stack up within the current Western Conference standings. Devin, right now El Paso 9th, Fresno 2nd. This only tells one little shred of the story.
This goes back to what you and I were chatting about in the first half, where there are so many teams that still have a shot at so many different spots. I mean, legitimately, Austin Bold, Orange County, Sac, Real Monarchs, they can jump into 4th. I mean, you could really make a run of this and say they're going to get a 2nd or 3rd. I'll give you a heads up, that's not going to happen. How about on the bottom side of things? What's that going to look like? You keep dropping down. Okay, here we go. El Paso, San Antonio, New Mexico. This is current standings. You ready for how it's going to shape out? I'm going to give you an idea right now. This is how things are going to look. Ha! I have no idea. Are you kidding me? You put me in charge of where everybody's going to finish. I got no clue. I mean, that's how wild the West has been this year.
Nobody showed me this graphic. Factually, it's completely inaccurate. But what do you think actually is going to happen?
So I broke every single team's down. I went across their schedule. I took a look. A lot of the ones are going to be regular. I got Phoenix, Fresno. Obviously, Phoenix is at 1. I see Fresno, Reno finishing 2-3. Orange County. I see Orange County getting 7 points out of their final 4 matches. They're going to jump into 4th. Sacramento's going to finish right there. Now you're jumping into goal differential when you go into these 4 teams. But at the bottom, New Mexico United, they are going to have a little run. They're going to go 2-1-1, grab 7 points. They'll slide into 9th. Darren Powell and San Antonio FC been really impressed. It comes down to an eye test for me. When you go back and look, not just at their body of work, but who they've done it against, they have found ways to make their way into that final playoff position at number 10.
Devin over here, Dylon. He spits hot fire. Coaches are not going to like you for this.
It's not going to be well.
No, but Mark Lowry knows, based off that, they'd be hosting a play-in-around game. He'll accept that. It's scoreless here at halftime between. Did you pick this scoreline? I'll ask later. Plenty of great things happened in the week that was. We've got a great Wednesday night soccer in 7 days. Take a look.
Long range effort. Oh, that's spectacular. From distance and hits a goal.
That's a great save, Van Oekel.
That's it for Hartford Athletic.
Hamilton back out wide. Chance to put this in the penalty area. Chance, a goal! Devin Sandoval brings them to their feet in Albuquerque. A minute to play. Dia puts it in. Definitely headed away. Shot comes in. It's 2-2. Oh, can you believe it? From 2-0 down, Phoenix are level. Making the run, Mo Hernandez, edge of the box. Hernandez, great move, gets free. Hernandez gives SAFC the lead.
I told you the big man was feeling it tonight.
Going to the middle.
Oh, shot. Goes right, gets the shot away, score! Nowhere to go for Lorendi.
Back in the middle looking for Cox, trying to set up a shot, and it finds the corner! We're level at 2, and all of a sudden, game on here in Tucson! Puts this in the middle, looking for Ramos Mingo! It's off the hands of Hara and in! The opening goal for Toronto FC 2.
Moape lost it. Boateng on the run. Boateng back in the net. Charles Boateng is first in league play.
To send it in. Headed away, couldn't get by the first man. Bermudez might come away with it, and he does! And there's nobody in goal! Greenville are going to score, and they're going to the playoffs! Greenville and Chris Bermudez!
What people may forget is that the first USL on ESPN game, me and John Harkes. Congratulations to my old partner in Greenville Triumph. They've qualified to the League One playoffs. Lansing as well, and North Texas have clinched the regular season title there. Final weekend of that coming up, and then the semis and the final. With Devin Kerr, Mike Watts, let's take a look at what's going on around the USL Championship at present. San Diego is filling up their front office now. A San Diego native is going to be the youngest principal owner in the championship, and of course he's flanked by Landon Donovan and Warren Smith, the old Sacramento Republic boss. The West, we already saw it. Wild, Devin. How many question marks were in there?
34.
34, okay.
17 times 3.
Wednesday night soccer, we've got Hartford and Birmingham coming your way. That's 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN News next Wednesday night. Devin, let's take a look at the upcoming Western Conference schedule. Looks like all these games will air exclusively on ESPN+.
Again, everything is meaningful. Orange County trying to fight their way, not just for a playoff spot, but can they get that Final Four? OKC Energy FC, will they make their way above the playoff line? San Antonio's got to go to Sin City and get it done there. Sacramento Republic have to recover, and I say that they have to go on the road because a lot of teams going into Tulsa recently have struggled. They hope that's not the case. How about El Paso, Locomotive, and Reno? A lot of Western Conference, a lot of pretty things going on. Of course, there was some news coming out of Colorado Springs. I think I've heard about that before. Switchbacks FC have a new coach, don't they?
Mr. Alan Koch.
There you go. Good signing for them. Very well done.
Vegas and San Antonio, essentially a 6-point game at the bottom of the Western Conference playoff picture. So it's halftime here between El Paso and Fresno. El Paso trying to move that much closer to clinching a position in the playoffs. Fresno already have. They've got a ways to go here to lock up number 2. We'll be back with first half highlights and second half kickoff after this on Wednesday Night Soccer. Halftime on Wednesday Night Soccer on ESPN3. Joined by Devin Kerr, Mike Watts. Some players have already made their way back to the field. Let's take a look at first half highlights and see what we've seen thus far. So El Paso tries to stay above the playoff line. Fresno looking to lock up second.
Just have to be smarter. The good news is they are creating. They're getting down there. They're going after Fresno. They've opened them up a little bit. For Fresno, I'm not overly concerned. We talked about that going to break, where this is where they can kind of sit around, hang around in a match, maybe not necessarily run you into the ground. They can't overwhelm you with play like they get against Phoenix to take down that 20-match win streak, but they find a way to get it done. And this is going to be one of those nights where, can you go on the road? Again, they haven't won since that match on August 10th where they won it 2-1 at OKC. That's a span of 3 matches where they lost to teams, Las Vegas, Tulsa, San Antonio. That's a good loss, and I mean in the sense of San Antonio's playing well right now, so I don't mind that as much. But if you want to be the number 2 seed, you got to show me something. Show me that you can go on the road and win, because this won't get it done, especially come playoff time.
Well, for El Paso, there are 3 staging posts they can look at right now. They sit in 9th. 8th means hosting a play-in game. 6th means you sit out the play-in game. 4th means you're hosting in the first round after the play-in game. 4 points to 4th, 3 points to 6th, 1 point to 8th. These fans would love to see a home game, but I'm sure they'd much rather see their team avoid the fate of having to play midweek to start the playoffs, especially if it were on the road. They've won 3 out of 4. The loss, though, to a red-hot Orange County over the last few months, 2-0. Paso thinks maybe 6 points will be enough to get them in. I'd love to get 3 points tonight. While Pablo Caffa has come in for Fresno. Caffa, the ultimate string puller, the deep-lying midfielder who can hit a ball as well as anybody in the league. Jamal Johnson standing over the ball as we prepare for the second half of play in El Paso. Fresno in 2nd and El Paso in 9th. Jaime Chavez comes out. Caffa comes on. Caffa this year, 7th time off the bench. 2 goals, 5 assists. And at times this year, he just hasn't fit the game plan, Devin. And when you put your captain on the bench in the second half of the season when the playoff race is heating up, some guys can't handle that, but Caffa has been a real pro. Quick throw to Luwal, and Luwal, his arms extended there. There's Ntoko. What a brick house he is. Moved to Belgium at 5 years old. Played for Standard Liège. I looked at this roster, Devin, week 1. I thought Kiesewetter, Richie Ryan, and Toko's got this great pedigree. Salgado, a former top pick in MLS. Kind of go, hey, this has the makings of a real dangerous team. And they're starting to find their way a little bit. But in this game, Devin, you want to see more tempo. Is that the lone key to turning the ignition on?
No. Definitively no. Because even once they turn it up a little bit, and we've seen them do that in glimpses in the first half, there were about 2 shots there. Really well done playing back. Speaking of Ntoko, to Logan Ketterer and start this over. Even once you get down there, you still got to find a way to be smarter in your actions, where you can have all this beautiful build-up, move your way 80 yards from goal. Ketterer can get involved. You can have 9 different guys touch it. But when you're 10 yards from goal, you still have to make better decisions, and that's where they were lacking the opening 45 minutes. The good talking point was is they were still getting down there. We've seen matches with them in the past where they cross over half field and it's okay, what do we do now? It's like a kid in a candy store. You're not exactly sure what candy you want to go after. Where do I stick my hand? Which bin is it in? How much money do I have? You have a sugar high before you even get there. That's not the case tonight. They're smart enough to at least work their way down. Now it's just time to finish things off.
A little flick on by Luwal, Kurimoto. And that's an iffy clearance. Kept in by Martin. Bypassing Cooper, Kaffa, Cooper again. Cooper swings too high for Lual. Now Velasquez, knocked down by Ali Hadjic. Devin, is it Pep Guardiola, whose big thing is, I'll get you to the final third?
That's kind of what he talks about with his team, and Sebastian Velasquez is one of the guys who really takes notice of it. I mean, if you're any sort of football in the world, you're going to respect it. But that is one of the comments that's really resonated with me in terms of a manager at a high level, and what he said, and we'll describe it again for him. So he talks about how everybody's an artist. And my job as a coach, great little step by Alex Cooper.
Cooper continues to plow forward. It's a goal kick in the end, but back to your point.
That my job as a coach is to get the best out of everybody, and that's easier said than done. But more specifically, my job is from the end line to 30 yards from goal. And what you are going to do is you're going to play my way. I'm going to show you how to build up. I'm going to show you where the rotation comes from. When a team moves this way, we're going to react like this. Here's the space that we like to pick and prod at. And when it's not going in the positive manner, how do we react then? And I will show you everything. The blueprints will be there. But once you cross over half field and get within 30, 35 yards from goal, you go explore yourself. Thierry Henry actually described it even better, where he said that they would move over and Pep would tell him to stay outside. When you've got Messi and a lot of other boys running around up top, I understand it. But he wanted it that way because it created more space in the middle of the field so that when they did hit the final third, there were multiple options. So it wasn't just one player. You could give a variety of looks going forward and pick and choose which one suited you best.
Kiesewetter drives in off the right. Kiesewetter, tight angle, all the way along. Maybe he's looking for a little poke.
This is what they did in the first half, moving him over to the right, allowing it to get on the right foot of the German up top. But again, it's a half chance. Is there a little deflection there? Hard to tell. A big clap of approval by Martin Del Campo to Gaffard.
It is interesting that in the early going, we needed a number 9. Salgado can move out wide. Kiesewetter's our number 9. You've seen him exclusively on the right in this game.
You just wonder how much of that has to do with the form of Josue Gomez. 4 goals last 5 games. We talked about Rebellon and his outside prowess. 2 goals as well. And you just feed that beast a little bit. But speaking of beast, you have to be careful with Fresno, because as many opportunities you can provide yourself, it'll get to a point here where it's almost like poking the sleeping giant. I mean, how many times over the course of this season where it's, okay, little knockabout left and right, side to side, have a little fun, and then boom, the switch turns on, you end up 2-0. Or it's 1 goal in the final minutes of a match, and you look back and go, what just happened?
How many wins do they have this year? 16, probably about a dozen times, I would think.
Easily.
And Toko. There's Gomez, scintillating form, 4 goals in 5. Nearly cashed in again. It's going to be a corner that got deflected.
This is 5 and 6. If CJ Cochran does not have a masterful display of goalkeeping right at the top of the 6, goalkeeper resets himself, and watch this, he's well off his line. He knows that he is 100% beat, but it's the tiniest of touches to deflect it over the bar that keeps it 0-0.
The second time in about 3 weeks he's had a delicate touch that's made that big a difference. Saved the penalty against Phoenix, help end their win streak. Velasquez, got the ball away, deflected en route, falls, and Toko! And Toko scores! His first goal for El Paso, and the celebration is on.
Coming in for the Locomotive, he'd only scored 16 his entire career. That now spans over 250 appearances. But lucky number 17 isn't the way that they drew it up. They wanted something tactful off the training ground, looking for that run at the top of the 18. It doesn't happen. And funny how Mark Lowry says it's the second and third chance opportunities that make this Fresno team so good. The blue-collar workers that really they can rely on to help them out and be successful. The center back provides that and more as they get out in front.
I bet that could be his first goal scored with his feet in his entire career. This big, hulking human center back. And Toko, an absence for about 2 months that coincided with El Paso's worst form. Mark Lowry considers him one of, if not the best, singular center back in the league.
These are the moments that you look back on, though, that you can rely on someone like that and say, he was good for us when he came back, but look at the boost he gives us, even in the offensive third, when maybe all of our pieces haven't been that great. You saw looks out of Gomez, Sebastian Velasquez from distance, but it's a center back coming out of Zaire that steps up just at the start of the second half to get his team out in front.
Cooper is caught by Ketterer. Worth noting, live standings considered, El Paso would now be in 7th place, tied for 6th, if this result held. El Paso landed with a giant thud through 4 games. And then they picked up steam, in part with Jerome Kiesevetter's incredible goal-scoring form. And then they hit the dumps again in July and the early stages of August. They're starting to look like the team that for about 2.5 months had everybody on notice, to the point where they were 2nd, 3rd in the Western Conference. Mark Lowry's premonition came true. He said 1 loss becomes 2 or 3, then you drop 4 or 5 places. It did happen. And with how tight the West is right now, this 9th place team, given their games in hand, could very quietly sneak into 4, 5, 6. If they can get a win tonight and keep it up. Foul at midfield. Another foul and a yellow card to boot.
It is frustrating for Zach Ellis-Hayden, but it's a foul. And the reason that he gets booked for it as well is it's a quick little turn. It's an attacking option going forward for the El Paso Locomotive. How about the 8th notch going the entire night, loving their boys on this run of form. We mentioned coming into this match that we were waiting for the Locomotive to show us something. Come from behind victory 2-1 against Sacramento Republic. Beyond impressive at Papa Murphy's Park, because it's so difficult to bring points out of there. Now you're up front 1-0 against the number 2 team in the Western Conference right now, as you get a better look at. Zach Ellis-Hayden got himself into trouble.
Ball swung across over the head of Ntoko, and a slide as well. Real tight quarters. Andrew Fox. Fox actually moved to Texas more for his wife than for him, the way it worked out. Came in January. Mark Lowry didn't know him at all. Ended up coming down to El Paso.
Track back to that match against Phoenix Rising on the road back on August 10th. Funny enough how those 2 dates coincided with each other. Fresno's last road win, El Paso Locomotive the reference as well, and Andrew Fox had actually moved up to striker. They played him as a point man. I was bewildered watching tape coming in that was an option. But the Englishman, sitting right around 6 foot, does a good job at hold-up play and is decent enough with his feet where he knew what his job was. Get rid of it as quick as possible, and I've been in those shoes. You know, I was an attacking option as a youngster, and then as I made my way through the professional ranks, moved to the back line. Still good enough when needed, where you could throw one of the big bodies up top, try and play off of them. But nice to see him back in the back 4 where he belongs, and he's been very good there.
Ball popped ahead, and Cooper was offside. By the way, Andrew Fox has a very unique claim to fame. Grimsby played against Crystal Palace in the FA Cup. First English player to have a yellow card turned to a red card by VAR.
That is some serious prep work.
That's a real deep dive.
That is, man, I just realized I have no life. That's impressive. How'd you dig that one up, by the way?
Well, you start by Google. All right.
Don't give away your secrets.
Okay.
Not just yet. You gotta tell the listeners to tune in next time, and then you'll give them a little glimpse.
I asked Jeeves. Look at Gomez. Can Gomez get there? It was right on the money, and that had to be. It really did. It's worth noting that was Ellis Hayden's 8th yellow card, but he got one rescinded in terms of how it counts toward a yellow card accumulation suspension for good behavior earlier this year. So he's still available for the next game. Del Campo, the only player for Fresno, is currently a yellow card away from a suspension, and boy, they really can't afford to lose him with Mickey Daly being injured, so he's going to be on red alert tonight.
Considering the timetable that's on Mickey Daly as well, trying to come back from that hamstring injury, feel like that's got to be a couple weeks. Status of Jackson, mentioned earlier, still trying to find that out as they help their center back to his feet.
Martin Del Campo, former U.S. under-23, played for UC Davis and then on to Saprissa in Costa Rica for a 2-year stint. And to Puerto Rico and Ottawa. Once upon a time, a finalist for League Two Player of the Year with the Earthquakes under-23 side.
Not a good look going back down, and there's a shout from the training staff to get the boys on the sideline going.
Devin, you think about the way things work out right now. Fresno did play in a 3-back in their most recent game. However, Del Campo was part of that 3-back, and you don't really see Cooper or Ellis Hayden as true defenders.
Sam Strong.
Sam Strong comes on, and it's going to be Strong and Geffrard together theoretically.
Combination we haven't seen at all.
No, in a 4-back, not once all year.
You and I were talking about the way this was going to take shape in terms of the starting 11 coming in. How would that play out? And I was almost bewildered that I hadn't seen Geffrard in a 4-back yet because he plays on the left side. He's a naturally left-footed player, but they played him in the 3-back system. And they'd allowed guys like Alex Cooper on the left or Jamal Johnson if they wanted to sit in front of him. And now you lose Mickey Daly and now Martin Del Campo. We talked about El Paso Locomotive and how they were trying to walk a fine line and move their way into playoff contention. Now Fresno on the ropes, 30 minutes to go. Your second starting center back going down, looking like Sam Strong's going to come on and see if he can right the ship.
Well, there is concern abound right now. If there's one thing you can say about all the injuries, Del Campo off and Strong on, the center backs have always been there. It's been the wing backs, the full backs who've dealt with all these injuries. So Geffrard and Strong together. Strong, a veteran of exactly 406 minutes this year. 16 times an unused sub. And Geffrard, who didn't play a single minute before Gold Cup, in his 6th appearance, 4th start, less than 350 minutes this year. That in just a little more context, Daly and Del Campo have combined for 5,147 minutes this year at center back. Well, Fresno now, having used Kaffa already as a sub, down to their final. That's Yuma getting back to defend. Ball ushered through by Kurimoto. Of note tonight, Richmond and Toronto FC2 playing in USL League One. This one of 3 games in the USL Championship tonight. Ottawa 1-0 winner over Indy. Sacramento and Galaxy 2 are kicking off in moments on ESPN+. But it's El Paso trying to spring the home upset tonight. Gliding in was Fox. By the way, Indy 11, we were giving them all the plaudits in the world. Not so much anymore. As Johnson will come off for Diego Casillas.
There's a problem there. And the problem is they can't score. I mean, it's as simple as that. It sounds ridiculous coming out of my mouth, but it's watching them play. There is no reason with all of that talent that they've dropped 4 in a row. And I'm not being disrespectful to Ottawa or some of the other guys that they've taken on, but it's just you've got the all-time USL Championship goal scorer in the likes of the great Dane Kelly.
Yep.
You've got, well, he's no longer there. You had, I should say.
Thomas Inivoltson.
Inivoltson, he's gone. Tyler Pasher has been lights out this year. And this isn't a shot at the organization at all. Has nothing to do with Martin Rennie. This comes down to executing on the field, and that goes to the players. You got to find a way. When you're given the shirt and the not in the 11, if you're a substitute, I don't care if you're a substitute on the bench who doesn't see the field at all. You have to find a way to be impactful for the team, especially this time of year. So many games in hand. We were talking about them being the #1 seed. Yep. Not the case anymore. Now you got to find a way to not only remain relevant in the playoffs, but hold on to a home playoff spot.
Kaffa gets chopped down. Free kick coming. It's worth noting Alex Cooper is not the free kick taker of note, but he literally walked up and said, "This one's mine" in San Antonio, and then canned a free kick from 20+ yards out. Well, it's going to be Kaffa this time, and it's a little further away.
We gave a lot of credit to Chiro and Toko, how he's been the one who's kind of helped lead this team really in a good direction recently. How about Juan Pablo Kaffa? Now's the chance. You come on as a substitute. You've worn the band regularly before. You have a chance as a set-piece specialist from about 25 yards out to make an impact on this match. If you're going to do it, you're going against Logan Ketterer and about 8 bodies standing in front of you. But if anyone can, the Argentine is up to the task.
Juan Pablo Kaffa! Incredible finish! Ageless wonder, 1-1.
You can't write scripts like this with Juan Pablo Kaffa, honestly. We talked about his workload. Was it managed appropriately? Did we like him not being in the starting 11? It does not matter. You come into the match as a substitute and you find a way to show your manager you can still get it done. Don't care if it's from the run of play or from a set piece from distance. You know what he's capable of. But sometimes you just have to sit back and appreciate the wonder strikes that come off of this illustrious left foot of Juan Pablo Kaffa as the captain's armband finds its home once again.
Goodness gracious. Rumor has it he hates his old nickname, violinist of the viaduct. The man's an artist, though. What a finish. And Fresno pulls level on the road with their second direct free kick goal in as many games. Say this about Fresno, a lot of people will say it's direct, it's a simplistic style perhaps, physical, blue collar, whatever. Their penchant for scoring ridiculous 20+ yard goals might be unmatched in the entire league.
A lot of guys who can lay fame to that as well. Jamal Johnson's been in there. Jaime Chavez, Judas Lawal, Alex Cooper most recently in their last game. Juan Pablo Kaffa doesn't need an introduction, but we're going to give him some based upon that ridiculous move he just pulled.
Chapa Herrera came on as that goal hit the back of the net. So El Paso exploring their bench. That was their first move of this game. Fresno is now 3 subs deep. They're done. Strong steps in. He was the penultimate sub for Fresno after Ramon Martin Del Campo went down with injury. And with all due respect to El Paso in the game tonight, that may be the headline that comes out of this game for Fresno moving forward. Settled by Velasquez. Wanted to respond in kind to Kaffa. Kaffa thought that was a handball against Yuma, not quite. People forget Kaffa was a Boca Juniors youth. He played for Tripoli over in Greece in Europa League. I mean, some real talent. Kiffy off the head of Casillas. Rather a strong. Those two have mimicked hairstyles, haven't they?
Now you just wonder, is there enough in it on the road to grab another one? 22 minutes to play. That is an emotional override that can send you in a really good direction, but can also be a tailspin if you're not careful. They've changed their stave. Cutis the wall after moving Jaime Chavez off at halftime. He goes to the lone spot up top. Jamal Johnson had gone to the right, and they just overloaded the middle of the field to try and get on the ball a bit more. We've seen that. Now what can you do with it? El Paso Locomotive just falling away. There has to be some sort of counterpunch to relieve the pressure.
Cooper. Worth noting for Fresno, their splits at 75 minutes are a statistician's dream. 14 times they've led with a quarter hour to go. They've picked up 38 points out of their 56 in those circumstances. 1 point out of the 7 games in which they trailed. Of course, you look at their record. When they're level, they have not lost a game in which they were level or better at 75 minutes. Whereas last year it was their definite Achilles heel. Foul here on Martin.
A couple minutes to get there. Elijah Martin was actually the one who kept this movement going forward alive on the sequence just before. He and Alex Cooper interchanging on the left side, said that that's a relationship that has really prospered over this 2019 campaign. And look at all of this. This is something that worries me defensively from set pieces. Jerome Kiesewetter right at the top of the circle on the 18, but there's so much space to knock something in or keep it low.
Kaffa, well, that's a little more on brand this year. His set piece service hasn't quite been at the level it was a year ago. Ellis Hayden floating it across and out of the reach of Juan Pablo Kaffa. The point tonight would still be hugely significant for El Paso, make no mistake about it. Fresno did beat El Paso at Chuck Chansey Park earlier this year, 3-0. And a foul here. You think about where these teams are in the standings right now, it would be potentially the first round meeting if El Paso got into the play-in game based on the results and standings as they were at the beginning of the night.
I'm up for that.
Oh, I'd watch.
Sign me up.
Casillas. Casillas bounces off Kiffy. Here comes the Locomotive. Kiesewetter. Yuma. Ross. Rebellon. Kiesewetter again. This is really good from El Paso. Gomez and Velasquez standing atop the 6.
Sebastian Velasquez has a point here as this ball comes back across. This is what we talked about. Where is your decision going to be? It's a beautiful ball played in, but no one's around it. Cut this ball back. Everybody in a white shirt is attacking the net. They're using their momentum against themselves, and that's where you have to then pull it back behind them. As a center back defending, you want to try and get to the byline, open your hips up to allow yourself to challenge the ball coming back in. When you don't, your shoulder is square with the goalkeeper. That's when an attacker cuts it in behind you, and you put it in the back of the net.
Lawal is down. Fresno is out of available substitutes. Looks like Lawal's going to pop back up here in a moment. His story pretty remarkable when you think about it. Maybe lacked a bit of professionalism earlier in his career. Because Mark Briggs, who helped Adam Smith track him down, once connected with his agent, Smith and the agent came to a realization Lawal would be a nice fit, but this might be his last chance at being a professional. Well, Lawal came in November, scored against Club Leon, who were one of the top teams in Liga MX last year. Ended up in a situation where it finished 1-1 in a postseason friendly for Fresno at Chuck Chansey Park. The other goal scorer valued at over $4 million. Lawal wins a contract, and at times this year has been unstoppable.
Streaky for sure, but the streaks that he's been on have been spectacular.
Yep.
And still, when you look statistically and break it all down, score a goal every 2.6 games, that's not a bad shout for Adam Smith.
He one of 2 double-digit goal scorers this year alongside Jaime Chavez for Fresno. Rebellon battling here with Martin. Martin simply didn't give in.
This is going to be a rough look for Fresno with 15 minutes to go.
Allowed through Gomez. Flag was really late. And because of that, the collision between Gomez, who's in incredible goal-scoring form, and Cochran.
This is definitely a tackle that's going to leave a mark. Not a penalty, so everybody can sit back down. Really well judged by C.J. Cochran to come off his line. What you want to question is how the linesman throws the flag up on this one. All ball, beautifully done by the goalkeeper. This is what dreams are made of as a center back, to line someone up like this inside the box and bail everybody else out. C.J. Cochran says, "You're going to leave me out to dry? I'll show you how it's done, boys."
That was a pixelated Picasso of a camera view.
It's the baseball net. We talk about this venue, by the way? Walking in?
You and I look at the far side, and you see the way the stands are built into what almost looks like a building out there. I mean, it reminds me a little bit of the ballpark in Arlington, Texas, if I'm being honest.
With you on that one also, and we're going to have the opportunity to see this in about a week and a half, 2 weeks. What's the one in Indianapolis? It's downtown.
Lucas Oil?
No, stop.
What?
It's the AAA field. Anyway, back to the conversation. Southwest University Park, that's home of the El Paso Chihuahuas. Actually got voted the best view in the minor leagues.
Yeah.
They hosted the 32nd AAA All-Star game this July. On that far side of the field. One of those second, upper decks, hanging the flag, sit back, nice cold water, little slice of lemon. I'm ready.
Yeah, sure.
Borrow some of that popcorn that I was being made fun of earlier at halftime.
Yeah, some new Milwaukee. I will say this, they better get the San Diego logos out before Landon Donovan's team comes powering into town next year. Believe that. El Paso and Fresno meeting here for the second and theoretically final time of the regular season. And all in all, in the 2019 championship, they could meet in the playoffs, and it's really not that far-fetched. El Paso jumped in front, Fresno responding with a brilliant strike from one Pablo Cafa. And Toko would say he had quite the goal himself off a second ball, something that Fresno typically prides themselves on. Ross, there's Velasquez. What can he create in the final 15 or so minutes? Rebellon, you can see the waves beginning to crest a bit higher for El Paso in the latter stages. Their attacks have had just a little more bite to them, I think.
This is fresh legs. Turn it up and go after Fresno right now. They don't have the striker up top in Kudos the Wall who can chase all night long. and you get some boys that come on 15, 20 minutes to play. Obviously, we're approaching the 10-minute mark, but just spark things up a little bit so that when they are going side to side, do it a bit quicker and really run this into the ground. See if you can go get a go-ahead.
Pushed ahead by Herrera. Gomez knocks it wide, and a good slide by Casillas, the 24-year-old Mexican who spent 4 years in USL League Two. El Paso going to their bench once more. And here's Omar Salgado, man who grew up on the border, played for both Mexico and United States, the youth national sides. Was the first signing of this club, the first overall pick back in 2011, and joining him, former star of the French U20 World Cup winning side, Alexis Bossetti. The big guns are out in El Paso, no doubt about it. Cross whip through. Velasquez came off. Bossetti coming on. There's 21 in blue. Bossetti signed a 2-year deal in Oklahoma City and was transferred over to El Paso mid-season in a trade. Saw Derek Gebhard go the other way. Nick Ross has come out in an attack-minded move. Salgado in his stead.
Hodgick just getting the brunt of this one with Mark Lowry making those changes. You've now exhausted your efforts there. Both teams have no subs remaining, just around the 10-minute mark here, and Yuma will most definitely continue to sit deep. Again, you can just rotate so many different pieces for this El Paso Locomotive squad. Chapa will stay on the inside. Salgado and Gomez can go side to side. Jerome Kiesewetter has been pretty much isolated out on that right wing. And would like to see him get more involved. He is too talented. Where he's at his best is when they have some steam going forward. You get the likes of James Kiffey or Gomez on the left, combining with Salgado, whatever it may be in the buildup. Quick little 1-2, ball gets whipped in, and Kiesewetter will just pick the center backs apart if given the opportunity. The problem is they just haven't given him any looks in that fashion.
Herrera comes all the way around. He was an invitational trialist back in December. Mark Lowry giving him a contract, one of his prouder moments, he said. Played in the Alianza de Football tourney in El Paso. In that tournament over the weekend, Mark Lowry thought he ran about 5,000 kilometers and didn't turn the ball over once. Yuma. Look at this little shimmy, and the shot lifted over by Raballon, who scored both of his goals this year in the last 2 matches.
Quick little cut in. Not necessarily known for strikes that can mimic what came out of Juan Pablo Capa off that left foot earlier, but hey, give it a go, why not? Give it a go. A little bit of spirit, fight left in that right back.
Raballon played briefly in Argentina. I don't know that he ever crossed paths with Capa. Given away by Cochran. Toko scored in the 53rd, 66th minute equalizer from Juan Pablo Capa in a game with all kinds of playoff seeding implications. From the left-hand wing, ball for Gomez. Diving header by Sam Strong. been called upon as a substitute in the place of the nearly immovable force at center back for Fresno the last 2 years, Ramon Martin Del Campo.
Alexi Bassetti just a second ago was asking to go quick on their actions going forward, and why not? We said the minute that they turn it up, that's where they have looked at their best. He'll go to set pieces from the corner now.
Corner for the Locomotive, fell down right in front of Intoko. Driven away by Casillas.
Keep going here. Apply more pressure. Mark Lowry wants it down, wants to slow it down.
This isn't one of the culture jerseys that they put out. I'm just going to say, I know it's late in the game, but El Paso's jerseys are slick.
Black.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I like them.
A nice shot up tight, reminded me.
A favorite in the USL Championship?
I'm not saying that.
Okay.
I'm not putting my name out there. Devin, is it personnel getting forward or the way they get forward that you want to see change here from Mark Lowry down the stretch to apply that further pressure?
Combination of the two. Moments ago, we saw Brian Remillot cutting inside of that left foot. Not a bad look, but not the best one. That's when he goes forward. You want the delayed run where you work it in to Chapa and then get going so that Kiesewetter is the one on the end of it and you're not pulling the trigger of a right outside back with his left foot.
Kiesewetter, Bozzetti. Kiesewetter got in behind and brings it through. Cochran able to reach out and snag it.
If you can't find a way to break it down, moments of individual brilliance will work as well. Clever little touch in back behind.
Devin, where did Kiesewetter play? You played in Germany. You always get the pronunciations right.
You're going to run me through all of these right now?
All three of them, yes.
Das ist Hertha Berlin, Stuttgart and Düsseldorf.
Okay. For those who don't understand, that's Hertha Berlin, Stuttgart, Dusseldorf.
Vielen Dank.
Okay.
Many thanks.
5 minutes to go here, and this will run all the way to Ketterer, who played for such exotic names as the Columbus Crew in years past. Bradley, collegiately. Never played for Greg Berhalter. They loved the fact that he trained with them, knows how to play with his feet, understands the system. Lowry thought that'd be invaluable. Ball cracked diagonally out of the reach of Rebellon.
It's definitely worked out this way. I was extremely impressed with some of the coaches in the USL Championship, how, well, a lot of them to be honest, as you see the look that you don't want if you're El Paso Locomotive, Brian Rebellon, how they take notice to their surroundings and they'll pick and choose things that they like from other squads and try and make it their own, at least their own version. Phoenix Rising, you take a look at earlier on this season, they came to Southwest University Park and they beat El Paso Locomotive 2-0. Rick Shantz was very impressed with Mark Lowry and this team's ability to play out of the back, specifically what he was asking of the goalkeepers in the back line and putting all of this together. There's a challenge in the middle.
And Yuma is grabbing his face and writhing in pain right now. It looked like the bridge of his nose went right into the back of the defender's head. That's Lawal up there. He's built like a brick house.
Still struggling with, see what you did there. The cramping issues that arose right around the 75th minute mark. Just track back for a second. He was really complimentary of Mark Lowry and how you could get Logan Ketterer, Brian Rebellon, James Kiffey. Of course, the center backs have rotated a little bit, but you could compact them into a 15 or 20 yard spot and their defensive end of the field, right in front of their goal, and they find a way to play out. That was something that that team really took notice and felt like when we were going to make the run and get better, using his words, Rick Shantz from Phoenix Rising, we needed to find a way to replicate that. Obviously, that's taken shape, and they got much better playing out of the back. Other guys in the Eastern Conference have done it as well. Martin Rennie makes reference to teams. John Hackworth at Louisville City. But it's a team's ability to really shapeshift over the course of this season.
Ball launched long. There's a little effort there from Gomez that came up short. Lawal was shown a yellow for that previous endeavor. Salgado shown a yellow card. You don't need to read lips to see that. Me?
He's in from behind here. There's an arm tug. Yeah, there's the tail end of it. Locks up. Zach Ellis-Hayden actually had the better step on him. Salgado had used that big frame of his to position himself in the right spot. Unfortunately, he also overextended that right arm of his. Is there any magic left whatsoever? Fresno, so accustomed to late game dramatics. For me, it's that Reno game that jumps out in front. Reno comes back, finds a way to equalize. All of the emotion had been drawn out of it. And comes extra time, they finish it off.
Kaffa, that header goes well wide from Geffrard. You talk with Adam Smith, you hear mental toughness, you hear a coach who probably deserves more consideration for Coach of the Year than he's getting, taking a team that missed the playoffs with 2-3 games left last year. They were already out of the chase, and has taken this team to second. Probably deserves a lot of that conversation moving forward in his future as a top-tier head coach. But that was the Achilles heel last year. That Reno game is one I promise you they don't win a year ago.
No. And to be fair, though still dealing with a boatload of injuries, it's taken a different shape this year.
Quite.
Everybody has bought in much more. I'm total agreement with you in regard to his level of coaching and the Coach of the Year aspect as well. It's the 2-0. You give up a goal in the 89th and 90th minute. Okay, we gave up points. It's 1-1. We're on the road. Let's get out of here. But no, they keep their head up. Ali Hadji gets one in the 94th. They get 3.
Rebayon thrusts his arm out as if to orchestrate a crowd-wide booing symphony for this foul.
It's on the tail end of Alex Cooper, and watch this as the two of them. It's the momentum. And he starts to step back into it, goes up, and you know, they just decided to stand still instead.
Well, believe this, if you didn't have enough fun through 90, 5 added minutes here on Wednesday Night Soccer. Fresno can move 6 points clear of Reno for second place behind the already #1 seed, signed, sealed, delivered Phoenix Rising. El Paso in 9th. The win moves them to 7th. That would mean hosting a playing game, and they'd be on the verge of clinching a playoff spot. Salgado on the run. Salgado whipping it across, back post. It's too far for Bassetti. We've seen 4 or 5 of those searching balls longingly, tantalizingly across the goal mouth.
Can't blame Alexi Bassetti for this, though. The run has already matriculated into the box. Release it. He's already stopped and waiting for it to come the aerial route. When he's using his momentum to his advantage, he's waiting. Salgado, hit it, hit it. He waits too long. When he finally puts it on the deck, it's a beautiful ball back in, but everybody's already dropped back. You now have to employ it in a different manner, and it doesn't happen.
Salgado again, the El Paso native. Brought down, Kevy! Big rebound, put it, keep together! Is that a game winner for El Paso at the death? Believe it!
Second, third chance opportunities. We said it before, that was what they were looking at when marking up against the Fresno Foxes. But instead, good fortune comes in the way of the home squad. Jerome Kiesewetter, that illustrious run of form earlier this season, goal after goal, in beautiful distribution coming his way. Does it take shape in that manner? Absolutely not. It's a deflection given up by C.J. Cochran. He had 10 in his first 13 matches. That is only his second in his last 8, but most importantly, it is the second on the night for El Paso Locomotive, and they can smell 3 points. 2 minutes to go, can they finish it off?
Casillas I knew we were getting a good Wednesday night soccer tonight. I knew it. 160 ticks to go. Ali Hadjic wants to have a go. Bouncing shot. Skipped up high on Ketterer. He's in control. And strap in, folks. These next 2 minutes could be crazy.
Think about that. Do not sleep on Fresno. This game is far from over. They had gone to sleep just a little bit, given a few windows to the home squad to start to creep back in. Yeah, it's off a deflection, but they're able to capitalize with just inside 2 minutes. Watch this. They will start to push more jerseys up.
Chance now. It's right into Kiesewetter. Luwal was trying to just thrust that over the top of him and couldn't quite.
Well done, Logan Ketterer.
If he's any slower off his line.
Or any deeper. If he stays here, Luwal is allowed to let this drop at his feet and put it back in. Instead, he's trying to redirect it with his chest out in front. Really well done by Logan Ketterer coming off his line.
Look at who's all the way up front to flick that ball down, by the way. Center back converted second striker, Sam Strong, and he's forward again. Casillas. And that service left something to be desired. Minute to go here as El Paso reached in and grabbed a lead with 3 minutes remaining in stoppage time. And to put this in perspective, Fresno, when tied or leading at 75 minutes this year, 16-0-7. This was 1-1 at 75 tonight. And they're on the verge of their first loss in such a circumstance all year long. Salgado fouled, and that may do it for El Paso. What a giant moment this is for the Locomotive. You saw Memo Diaz and Nick Ross sharing a moment on the bench. Full time. This has to be the biggest win El Paso's had. Mark Lowry in a full sprint. What a moment for Kiesewetter, Salgado, and the Locomotive. 2-1 winners against Fresno. And this train is very much on the tracks. 4 wins in 5, Dev.
We said that there are always moments when you look back across the season where it's a defining one. And I said coming into this match, we had been waiting for El Paso Locomotive to finally show us what they were made of. They did it in a comeback against Sacramento Republic. The first, by the way, all season long where they were managing to get 3 points. Now, they don't do it from behind. They get out in front, but they show the gut and grind at the tail end of this thing to get a chance to get themselves back out in front. They had faded from the match. Fresno felt like they had the momentum. It starts to slip at the tail end, and then a deflection to their main man up top, Jerome Kiesewetter. They get 3 points, and they move their way back up the table.
At Reno, home against Austin, home against Portland, at LA Galaxy 2. El Paso has 4 games left. They're in 7th place now, and anywhere from 4th on down looks very much within their grasp, while Fresno, 3 points clear of Reno, dropped their 2nd straight for the first time this year. We'll wrap this one up with all the second half highlights you aren't going to want to miss. Locomotive 2, Fresno 1 on Wednesday Night Soccer. Soak it in, El Paso. 4 wins in 5. And what a moment tonight for the Locomotive. A 90-plus second game winner with Devin Kerr, Mike Watts on Wednesday Night Soccer on ESPN3. Let's take a look at our full-time highlights. And over Fresno tonight. The goals we did see, special. Fans in El Paso enjoying the night. No doctor's note needed. For Devin Kerr, our producer Wes Zentek, director Gage Tillotson, Eric Valero, Annette Reyes, our entire Vista Worldlink team, Mike Watts saying the celebration for El Paso, very much real. 90-plus 2-game winner. Firmer playoff ground. Thanks for watching Wednesday Night Soccer. Good night.
This copyrighted telecast of the United Soccer League Championship cannot be retransmitted, rebroadcast, or reproduced without the expressed written consent of the United Soccer League Championship.